Hey, what's going on, guys? Sebi here. Today's video, I will be discussing why powerlifting is optimal for bodybuilding. And what I mean by that is that training as a powerlifter is optimal for building muscle. Now, why is it that I believe it is optimal? Well, first you have to understand that many people don't understand that how powerlifters train. Many people think that powerlifters train low volume, low frequency, and just heavy weight. Everyone associates lifting really heavy with just low volume and low frequency. And in most cases, it's actually pretty far from the truth. Now, if you were to compare a bunch of powerlifters to a bunch of bodybuilders, maybe the bodybuilders still train with higher volume, but powerlifters, a lot of them, I would say they train pretty high frequency. And if you look at certain programs, you'll be doing lifts multiple times a week, multiple sets per session. And I'll get into, why that is important for strength and hypertrophy and why there's such a big overlap. It's not a perfect one-to-one correlation, but there is a big overlap between them. And training for one is usually going to help you a lot with the other. Firstly, why is high volume and high frequency so good for strength gains? Well, you have to realize that strength is applicable to a movement. Strength is a skill. You get strong and you display that strength via a feat of strength. So a lift, a carry, a hold, it could be static or dynamic, but strength is showcased. It's revealed through doing a feat of strength that involves one of those things. Now, the reason why doing high volume, high frequency is so goated for that strength boost is because you get good at what you practice. Let's say your goal is to bench as much as possible. You want to get a stronger bench press. If you spam bench press 4 times a week, you're probably going to get a stronger bench press than someone who's doing it once a week, because you're getting more touches under the bar, the movement becomes more familiar to you, and the principle of specificity is basically when you do a movement over and over again, your body adapts to it so well, and your nervous system becomes acclimated to that movement so well that your strength will get stronger at that particular movement, even at the expense of other movements. So maybe your dip stays the same, your push-ups stay the same, your dumbbell bench stays the same, your pec fly stays the same, but your barbell bench will go up the most. Now, the other things might eventually go up, but in terms of your nervous system becoming acclimated to that new stimulus, your bench will go up the most by far. Secondly, why is high volume and high frequency so important for hypertrophy? Now, hypertrophy is the size of the muscle fibers. And to stimulate it, you need to be activating the growth factors that occur to cause muscle growth or hypertrophy. There are a bunch of growth factors. I'm not going to get into all of them. And to be honest, there's plenty that I don't even know. But I do know that training with high volume and high frequency will stimulate a lot more of these growth factors and keep them upregulated to a much greater degree than low volume, low frequency. Low volume, low frequency, high intensity, it is an approach that can work, but once you have intensity high and you can adapt to more volume and frequency, I think you should do it, whether your goal is strength or hypertrophy, because you're going to get more, for strength, you're going to get more touches under the bar. You're going to train the movement patterns, which is important for strength. And for hypertrophy, the muscles get more stimulus to grow, as long as you are recovering adequately for that. One of the growth factors that I do know that will help is the mTOR pathway. That is stimulated very much so by high volume and high frequency. It is also resensitized by taking breaks from the gym. Another growth factor, which is the myostatin versus follistatin pathway, that is regulated much more. Like the follistatin is upregulated, the myostatin is downregulated much more from high frequency training. And that's because when you train, myostatin, which blocks muscle growth. That's what myostatin means. Myo means muscle, statin means stop. So myostatin is a chemical in your body that inhibits or stops muscle growth from happening. When you train, you lower myostatin temporarily, but it's only for like a few hours. So if you train biceps on Monday and you don't train them again until the Monday after, for like 8 hours, myostatin is low, like 8 to 24 hours. And then it goes right back up again. And for the other 6 days of the week, your myostatin's back up. A lot of the growth factors are gone. Your biceps aren't getting stimulated, and they're not going to grow as fast. One more example that I will use is satellite cell activation. Now, when you train very frequently, so basically there's two things that could happen for growth. You could have each nucleus in your muscle cell code for more proteins, and they could be working as hard as possible. Or you could create more myonuclei, and if each one produces the same amount of protein, now there's a lot more protein synthesis happening. So basically, doing high frequency can help speed up, in the long run, the rate at which protein synthesis occurs in muscle cells. This is why you can see a lot of people who used to work a certain muscle group a lot all the time. When they get serious into lifting weights, that muscle group tends to blow up. You know, you can look at hockey players and their quads, or ballet dancers and their calves. You could look at swimmers with their lats. If you ever notice swimmers, they use their lats a lot, and their shoulders, and their lats and shoulders tend to be well developed. Swimmers are known for the V-taper. So to recap, powerlifting is optimal for bodybuilding because they train rather similarly in terms of frequency and volume. A lot of people assume just because you lift heavy, that means you're not going to train with high volume and with high frequency, which is not necessarily the case. In fact, training like a powerlifter will often optimize these aspects of hypertrophy training that a lot of people are not getting right when they are training for hypertrophy. Another thing to consider is that powerlifting is a very great way to make a pipeline into bodybuilding. So a lot of the greatest bodybuilders, such as Ronnie Coleman, Kevin Levrone, and Johnny O. Jackson, started out with heavy powerlifting as their style of training, and it really helped them build their base and foundation, because the big three lifts are a great way to track your strength progress, which, like I said earlier, is a pretty good way to track how much muscle you're building as a whole. You know, those three lifts cover a lot of large muscle groups. And if you get pretty strong at them, chances are you're going to build a lot of muscle with it in the long run. In the short run, that's where it's more about nervous system. But I'm repeating myself at this point. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time.